The Chancellor delivered the largest tax-raising budget in history, clobbering businesses, motorists, farmers and pension savers with a £40 million raid. It was an image that not only illustrated the intense pressure on Rachel Reeves but the bleak state of the UK economy. The besieged Chancellor, sitting ashen-faced with heavy bags under her eyes, was being barracked by opposition MPs during the first PMQs of 2025. Outside the Commons' bear pit, markets were in meltdown, the pound was plummeting and borrowing costs were soaring. Throw into the mix that the economy is flatlining and inflation is stubbornly higher than hoped for, and it's easy to understand why Reeves wasn't looking refreshed so soon after the Christmas break. So where has it all gone wrong for Rachel from accounts, just 80 days on from the budget and 6 months after Labour swept to power promising economic growth would be the priority? Within days of entering number 11, Reeves said she had looked under the bonnet and discovered a £22 billion black hole in the nation's finances, blaming the Tory party for 14 years of economic mismanagement. Shortly after, she took a sledgehammer to pensioners, snatching the winter fuel payment from all but the poorest of pensioners. This decision, which has provoked an overwhelming public and political backlash, will save the Treasury £1.4 billion this financial year. Not a great deal in the grand scheme of things. The mistakes continued through the autumn. Midway through October, Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer attempted to use the grandeur of the Guildhall building in London to inspire some global business tycoons to bet big on Britain. But by this time the markets were already getting jittery, spooked by mounting pre-budget speculation of tax rises and business constraints. Long-term borrowing costs were also rising sharply, reflecting concern over Labour's economic policies and how tax hikes would stifle growth. Not only this, neither Starmer or Reeves bothered to invite Elon Musk to the jamboree, the ramifications of which will no doubt be felt for many years to come. Despite the warnings, a fortnight later on October 30, Reeves delivered the largest tax-raising budget in history, clobbering businesses, motorists, farmers and pension savers with an eye-watering £40 million raid. It was even bigger than Norman Lamont's 1993 mega-raid, which was worth around £38.5 billion in current prices. That came in the aftermath of the Black Wednesday sterling crisis. Her Halloween horror show axed winter fuel cash for 10 million pensioners, pummeled farmers with a 20% inheritance tax hike, and ramped up the amount of national insurance that employers pay. The Chancellor also changed debt rules to allow her to borrow up to £74 billion in the coming years for investment in infrastructure, prompting Rishi Sunak to accuse her of fiddling the figures. Business confidence was immediately shattered, with small and medium firms warning of recruitment freezes and job cuts. Meanwhile, the economy was beginning to shrink, with some economists putting Britain on recession watch, making a mockery of Labour's promises of growth. Inflation began to tick up again, having been driven down by Sunak in the final months of his premiership, heaping further pressure on the Chancellor as it put paid to any hopes of further interest rate cuts. The spectre of Donald Trump's return to the White House, following his dramatic U.S. election victory in November, had the global economy reeling at the prospect of a blizzard of trade tariffs. It is a combination of Reeves' horror budget and world economics which came to a head during last week's market turmoil. The meltdown saw UK borrowing costs hitting a 27-year high and the pound slumping to its lowest level since 2023, prompting questions over the Chancellor's future. Markets were well and truly spooked, approaching levels last seen after Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's emergency budget in September 2022.